y'all? Welcome back to Messages to My Neighbor. We are back with another episode. This is episode 3. We've been rocking and rolling since the beginning. I just want to first and foremost thank everybody who's been tuning in, everybody who's been interacting with the content, sharing your perspectives. I really appreciate it. Today I'm very excited to be back. We are here with another topic, a topic that was dear to my guests and myself. But before I even jump into that, I want to start by introducing these two lovely ladies. These are my cousins, y'all. So I'm very excited to be here today. I wanted it to be a very chill vibe. This is just like, a call. Come through, come over. Let's just talk. Let's vibrate over a topic. And let's just share our perspectives. Growing up, that's always something that we had in common. Being able to talk to each other, be transparent, help each other grow through different stages of life, through different situations and scenarios. So I'm very humble to be here today. Before I get started, I just want to give these ladies a chance to introduce themselves. If you could just state your name and just a little bit about yourself, whatever you want to share with the people. Y'all take it away.
My name is... I'll give my fake name my real name.
Stop it, what you love.
My name is Shaniqua, but most people know me as India Rose. I am an entrepreneur, a mom, a brand, a business, an artist. So I do a conglomerate of things. So I would just class myself as an entrepreneur. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Nice. Thank you for that. Kanzo.
I'm Anita. I am a mom, a new mom. I graduated with my bachelor's, decided to give it a break, and now I am trying to get into the entrepreneurial field as well. Just trying to build some generational wealth.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Emphasis on that. So thank you, ladies, for that. So that's just, my cousins in a nutshell. Shout out to us. Shout out to y'all. We got it going on. Yeah. But today I'm excited to introduce this topic to you all. I find that this is a topic that is very important, like it's critical, it's very crucial through every stage of life. But I feel like it's most crucial during early adulthood, late 20s, around that. A little bit after like adolescent time, and that topic is on boundaries. And I find that this topic is very important because a lot of times today it's kind of easy to get caught up in everything that your responsibilities are attached to the point you go for a lot of things or you accept a lot of things that kind of goes against your morals in a sense, not largely going against your morals, but kind of just go against your wishes and your desires. Just because of, that weight of having to do things or having to, go to work or take care of your children or running your business and things like that. So a lot of times we don't have those boundaries to protect our space. And one thing that I always try to follow and I always use as an analogy is just look at our lives as like houses. You get what I'm saying? Houses. And when somebody comes to your house, what's one rule y'all would have if somebody comes to your door?
Me?
Yeah. Any rule that you could think of. If you got a visitor to your house, what's the first thing they got to do?
Take off their shoes.
Okay, so that's one. Okay, because that's something that popped up for me.
And just come with respect. Like, don't come with no bad energy.
Right. So that, in a sense, shows like, that's your boundaries. Your life is your house, and everybody else is a guest to your house. Everybody else is a guest. Every situation is a guest. Every experience is a guest. So you have to have like those limitations of things that you will not accept and that you will accept into your space. So boundaries is something that I feel like is very important, and you have to be able to have certain limitations to your life. Certain things can only, reach certain levels of your life, and you just got to know how to, filter things, really critique what's going on around you, critique the people that's around you, critique the situations that you're entertaining to help you stay grounded in a sense. Sometimes we kind of lose ourselves by everything we attach to. So I just want to jump right into it. As I mentioned before, it's completely chill. Like, just think of it as us on the phone, having a conversation. We about to have a little fun, y'all. Yeah. But it's just going to be, I'm asking questions, and we just want to get the conversation flowing. The questions, in a sense, are going to, regulate how the conversation is going to flow.
Okay.
So I think I want Nita, I want you to start this first question off.
Okay.
If you were to have to define boundaries, how would you define it? Like, what comes to mind for you when you hear the word boundaries?
Okay, boundaries. My first thought is a perimeter, but when I think more about it, I think boundaries are like expectations or bars that I have for myself as well as other people that surround me.
Yeah.
I think boundaries are forever changing based on the knowledge and experience and things like that that you go through.
Yeah.
So, you know, the boundaries or expectations I had at 24, I don't have now. So, but I was not wrong then.
Talk about
I just had different expectations or boundaries for myself and people around me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like over time, in a sense, it's like every stage is going to require a new set of boundaries.
Yes, because you grow, you know, you get more knowledge and
Yeah.
things just change.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the only way we can change. It's
Yes.
like those experiences that really give us the knowledge to navigate, okay, this is what I need to do differently.
Yes.
This is what can stay the same, but these are the steps that I need to take from now on based on what you learned. So
Exactly.
thanks for that. You got anything you want to add? Because I got a question for you too. I want you to take away.
No, I think that was super like a good dope you know, word to put on that, like
Yeah.
your expectations
Mhm.
and your perimeter, like
Mhm.
it ties back to like the house.
Yeah.
If you tie it back to that, like your house, you may start out a house a certain way,
Yeah.
but later on you might want to upgrade it.
Exactly.
That's
So
so true.
it starts out what you expect at that moment, and it's supposed to always change because I
Yeah.
think we're supposed to always change as people.
Mm-hmm.
So
I like that. That's a good point too. Because stagnation is like very detrimental.
Yeah.
So nobody, yeah, I feel like we all get to that stage, like naturally. I think it's like more of an instant gratification thing. So sometimes we get satisfied with where we are, but as time progresses, we look back like, tag, no, you know, I got to be doing more. I know that's how it is for
Right.
me sometimes. Like, I never feel like I'm doing enough.
Right.
Or if I'm like focused on one thing, I'm like, okay, I got to be doing something else. Like, I don't want to be stagnant. Like,
Stagnant people scare me. They scare me.
why they scared?
Because it's just
'Cause
like
they
no
scare me
growth.
too.
Like you stagnant,
Right.
so you never gonna. It's like you're not challenging yourself
At
enough.
all.
You're not growing.
Yeah.
You're just staying in the same place. Like nothing stays in the same place. Like you know,
That's so
supposed to stay in
true.
the same place. Some things that's rooted,
Mhm.
but even that like has to be a little bit. You know, it could be changed. Even that needs to be. You know, analyzed to a certain
Yeah.
degree. So yeah, stagnant people scare me.
Yeah.
That scares me.
That's so true. Oh, that was some good points. Thank y'all for answering that. Cuddy, this question is for you, Ms. Nikwa. Why do you feel boundaries are important for people to, you know, have as a part of their lifestyle? Why is boundaries important?
I think boundaries create structure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to have structure. Like everything that's kind of built and everything that's sturdy has structure, right?
Mhm.
So if you don't have any boundaries, you kind of accept things that may not be for you. You just kind of take anything. So you have no limitations.
Absolutely.
And I don't think you should have limitations. Some things should be boundless,
Mhm.
like your goals and you know like your expectations, and just your
Absolutely.
growth should be balanced. But when you have no boundaries, it allows people to disrespect you.
Right.
It allows you to disrespect yourself because you don't
It
have
allows you to
anything.
what? What's that second part you
Disrespect
said?
yourself. You
Okay.
ain't doing that.
That's right. We ain't gonna do that. But
Right. So
yeah.
I think it definitely allows you to just be unstructured, no discipline. So boundaries just implements, you know, what lines that you won't cross and what lines that somebody won't cross either.
Yeah.
It creates comfortability. So when you don't have no boundaries, it's kind of you open to like anything.
Yeah.
So I think boundaries are very important.
And that can be good or bad. And one thing that I do like that you point out is that core. Like one thing that I always tell myself, you know, we all have our foundations, which essentially are our morals. You know, how we were raised, certain you know, qualities and characteristics that we follow based on, you know, being disciplined and having those boundaries, whether it's by our parents growing up and learning them. But it's like we all have that root.
Right.
Now, if your root and your core isn't strong, and just imagine everything else building on top of that,
Right.
you know, you got your responsibilities and all this stuff just building up. It's like it's always going to be shaky. So how are you ever going to be whole if you don't have that foundation of boundaries to hold you solid? If that,
Right. Nothing
excuse me, if that
solid
makes
with
sense.
no boundaries.
Mhm.
Like, there's nothing to build on. Like
At all. At all.
Just
Go
to touch
ahead.
on that, I think it's also important for you to have boundaries with. That's what the question was, right?
Yeah. Why do you find it's important to have boundaries?
Oh.
Yeah.
So in addition to what Nikwa and you guys said, I think it's important because you don't want to waste your resources, your time, and stuff like that on people who don't really deserve it. So it's like you set those boundaries with people so that you can be yourself and it won't be wasted on someone who, you know, takes advantage of it or something like that.
And sometimes it'd be like, this is something that I've learned like over time. It's like sometimes it's far past an intentional stage of like how people would abuse, you know, you having open boundaries and you being welcoming and have certain people in your space and things like that. But as you mentioned, you get to a point, it's like, nah, I'm disrespecting myself now. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm really disrespecting myself because you know, certain levels of access you should allow people to have to you, certain people, you get what I'm saying? And that's where our power comes in of having our own individual lives, is because we get to pick and choose. Now I get to say, okay, this is what you can offer me. That's cool.
And
I'm gonna keep you at that level.
Too. Like,
that's it. Yeah, I'm gonna just keep you there.
Something like I have a limitation to what I can give too. When you don't, sometimes you end up overextending yourself. Like, you know, trying to meet their expectations when you don't even know if you're capable of doing that. Like, your boundary can only probably push you so far, and it may not even, you know, it may not even meet their needs. So I think that's even going further. I think that's responsible as a person, like within, to be able to say, like, you know, if you expect this, I can't meet that. Then all I'm doing is living up to your expectations, and not, you know, my potential, and not what I can do. So yeah, I think it's important. You have to have boundaries.
So cheers to us having that knowledge of just knowing the importance of boundaries. That's number one, because it's very important. Like, very important.
You're supposed to drink after that.
I drank before, but I didn't sip. I'm sorry. But yeah, so thank y'all for pointing that out too. So my next question, you know, we always stay in contact. We always make it a duty to stay on top of each other, you know, check in, make sure each other is doing okay, like one another, each of us are doing okay. And one thing that you two have in common is the fact that you both are parents. You know, you both have children. And that leads me in a sense to my next question. Do you feel you put your wishes last when it comes to your responsibilities?
Always.
Okay.
Yeah. As a mother, I think that's what makes you a mother. It's putting your kids before you. That's the only way you're able to be like selfless and give your kids what they need, not what you need. So I think that as a parent, you learn. I have 2 kids, 12 and 8. And before I had like no boundaries. So when I had them, I had no boundaries at all, like in life, in my own, you know, within my own self. But as I create boundaries, I also create discipline for them, and I also learn to put myself first when needed. So I ain't gonna say it, but sometimes you gotta stay bumping kids, and you gotta be about yourself, because if you're not good in yourself, you can't really be good for your kids. Like, it's no way possible that you can be like internally suffering or internally feeling a negative feeling emotion and then put your best foot forward. Your kids definitely can sense that. So I think it's important to become, you know, whole and one with yourself and just peaceful with yourself. And have those boundaries. You mention that, because like the bump those kids part, that was going to be my next question in a sense. Like, it's like you have to have a sense of boundaries within your parenthood too. So it's like you can't put too much, you know, pressure on yourself. At the end of the day, you're learning as you're parenting as well. Not only that, like kids are boundless. That's what makes them so innocent. That's what makes them so, you know, like fun. That's what makes them so creative. That's what makes them so pure, because they have no boundaries. Society and parents, we create them boundaries. School creates boundaries. You know, your peers create boundaries, or you know, they just mold the kid too. So it takes like a village, and all those things and all those interactions molds them. But when they come out, they have no boundaries.
That's true.
So you gotta kind of let them know, like, this is where this is the line you can't cross, and this is the line you can cross.
And Nita, you could relate to that in a sense.
Yeah, to touch, like, so I'm a new mom, so my daughter's like 1.5. So, and this is something that I'm still battling with to this day. It's just creating boundaries for myself because of the, I guess, how do you say it, like, something that's impossible to reach. Like I set these boundaries for me as a mom. It's ridiculous. Like, I will move mountains for my daughter, or try, or die trying. And, you know, I know every mother will, but there is a fine line between, okay, are you going to kill yourself doing it, or are you going to take the time, like, take a step back, get yourself together? So it was very hard for me to set those boundaries, but I'm setting them. And bump them kids. So,
respectfully, because I feel like when I say that, I don't want to get it misconstrued. No, when you say bump them kids and you a mother, you already know that you're gonna provide everything they provided and then some. When you're a mother, like when you're for your kids, you can have the privilege of saying bump them kids, because you know that one, I crossed every T, dotted every I. you got everything you need, and then want, and then some.
Okay.
So if I decide to say today is the day I can't be Superwoman, I want to be human today. Bump them kids. I can't move a mountain. Like, it's impossible for a human to move a mountain.
Exactly.
Maybe with a little bit more other things, but it's impossible for me. And I tell my kids that too. Like, I'm not Superwoman. Like, I think as mothers, we have this thing where people create these like super exceeding boundaries, expectations of us, and we internalize that and say, I want to do. I wanted to before I had kids. I wanted to bake cookies and read books every night and like tuck them in every night and get them everything they wanted. And I had to learn, like, no, like, that's a boundary that I have to honestly challenge, because as a parent, you can't give your kid everything they want. You have to teach them the value of no. So it's certain things you learn.
Right, that's a good point, and I try to get it in because that's a good point. I wanted to stop right there for a minute, and I wanted to, put that out there to the audience to, like, let them know, even if it's aside from parenthood, like, anything that you feel like is your responsibility when you're going above and beyond, and in a sense you're setting these false expectations, is going to backfire. You get what I'm saying? We have no plan. We have, no knowledge. It's out of our reach how life is going to progress. You get what I'm saying? We can have an idea, which is where our goals come into play, our vision comes into play. But then you have life itself, which is going to be a whole different road. That come with speed bumps, that come with potholes, that come with some no blocks, one ways, no U-turns on this block. So it's like we really can't control it. So by setting those false expectations, it's going to backfire in a sense. So what's one thing that we can keep in mind when it comes to that, like those unrealistic expectations on every stage? Like, what could we tell ourselves and what we can tell like other people? Like,
let me take a swing at it. I think that it's important to know that everything is God's plan. So if I leave today to go somewhere and something happens to anybody that I love, that was God's plan. And that's kind of how I move through life, in terms of just taking things for how they come, because you never know what's going to happen. So it's always God's plan.
It's definitely out of your reach,
That's it. Like,
it's straight to it, right? That's it.
Once you pick God in there, it's doing life.
Nothing else to be
discussed.
discussed.
Yeah, I think it's once you put God in there and you have faith and you just, it allows you to breathe. Like, not only that, you just try your hardest. Like, you only could do so much. And I think once you come to grips with, like, you only could do so much, then you get to that point where you're like, okay. Like, I did what I could do. And you leave it to another day. And you just be graceful with yourself. I think that's something I'm working on right now. Like, just being graceful with myself. Like, I can't do everything. I'm trying my best. I'm trying my hardest. Give me some grace too. Like, that's it.
And that's like one of the things, like a transparent moment that I pray for a lot. It's like one thing I always say is like, God, give me the opportunity and, grant me the strength to be great, to do great, and to influence greatness as much as I can. You get what I'm saying? Everything that's out of my reach, I can't, I can't control it, but just give me that grace and give me, that motivation to just really do that and just like try to influence greatness and be the greatest person that I can be. Because that's all I can do. That's all we can do.
Give it to somebody bigger. Like, I think we put a lot on ourselves, and we don't realize, like, we only could do so much in this like human body and human form. And some people could do a little bit more, some people a little bit less. But I think when you give something to someone else, anytime, like if I'm holding something and I give it to you, or you come and hold it with me, it takes a little pressure off me. So yeah, I think that once you give yourself grace, you're good.
That's it. That's all.
That's it.
Once you give it to yourself, but emphasis on we gotta start giving ourselves the grace.
Yes.
We gotta give ourselves a little less weight, a little less pressure, and just kind of accept things and be mindful at the moment. You can only control the current moment. You can't control the past. You can't control the future. Just focus on where you are at that current moment. So those are some good points, and that leads me right into the next topic. It's kind of like a segue, but I wanted to tap into as far as relationships. And that can be under a large umbrella. It can be romantically, it can be friendships, acquaintances. And when we talk about relationships, I wanted to ask, what are some... Yeah, we about to jump in. We kept it a little surface, but we're going to get down to it, right? And this can be a large umbrella. This can be, relationships, this can be friendships, this can be acquaintances. But on a spectrum of like relationships in general, what's some things you have learned till this day that helped you develop boundaries when it comes to, people? in interacting with people or allowing people in your space? What are some things that you have learned?
I learned.
You was excited. I learned. What you learned?
Let me get my notebook.
It's a lot.
Well, I learned that. Let's see. I learned not to compromise your boundaries, but I also learned to be understanding.
Absolutely.
Ooh, that's like hard because it's like you gotta unpack that, like, and I feel like boundaries are flexible with different relationships.
Oh,
like the relationship of like parenting, like you gotta excuse some things, but you also should be hard in some areas. But I think that can go to everything too. Like you gotta kind of be.
But you can't come at your parents too hard, right? Especially like our parents. Look, especially Bobby daughters. Look, especially Bobby daughters. You can't come at them hard.
But I think that if you set a boundary, I feel like at a certain point, a parent should understand their kids' boundaries too. So I don't think it's one way. Like it's different from our generation because we was brought up differently. So when we was like when you know we was raised, or I was raised, it was kind of kids were to be seen and not heard. Yeah. But the boundaries of being a parent have changed.
Absolutely.
So now it's more of understanding. It's more of like, you know, understanding mental health in the way our parents were so rigid and so, you know, forceful. We have to change those boundaries because it does produce a certain thing. So yeah, I think it has to change. I'm really different with each relationship. So I think my boundaries are not the same. Certain core values stay the same: respect, loyalty, just honor. I think when somebody's honorable, they exhibit all those things.
Oh, you've really been in that book too.
Yes.
I'm about to say him a lot of times. Okay, Cuddy.
Exactly. I feel like when somebody is like honorable. Yeah. That's it. When somebody's honorable, they have certain qualities. So I think that that's it. Like I definitely judge things differently. At my kids, I feel like I have to be forgiving. Yeah. Friendships. It depends. Relationships, I've learned to be like, you know, this is my boundary. Don't cross at certain things. But you gotta be understanding too. Give everybody grace. I don't just give myself grace. I give people grace too. Yeah.
For me, with relationships, specifically like a partner, I feel like I don't have many boundaries. Because, and I say this because, I say it because in terms of, I feel like if I'm in a relationship with you, you're gonna take me for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Absolutely. So I'm not gonna stop. Like certain things, I'm gonna show you all of me. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna show you the bitchy me, the unreasonable me. I'm gonna show you everything because my good is also the same way. So it's like, it's no boundaries, but you have to be a certain someone to unlock that part of me. Yeah. And if it's up to you to abuse it, if you abuse it, then it's like, okay, boom, you're no longer in that, realm of seeing me at my boundless place,
Their vulnerability.
Yeah. That's really deep. That's deep. Because I find that a lot of times, like, and just like you ladies point out, it depends on the relationship. It depends on what, the foundation of the relationship is. Because I find that a lot of times where, like, the disconnect comes in, it's like, okay, when you set your boundaries, and I don't know if I'm the only one that noticed this, but like sometimes when you set boundaries when you didn't really have them before, people don't know how to take that. So now it's like, you setting these boundaries, and it's like one thing I always tell myself is like, if you're setting boundaries, that is to protect yourself. Right. Never be apologetic about it. You get what I'm saying? It's to better yourself. As long as you take other people into account, you do the good that you can do from your end. Always move with pure intentions. Always move with pure intentions, and everything kind of works itself out. But sometimes when it comes down to those problems, like with people, I think one thing we fail to realize is like a lot of times is you and the person versus the problem, and not you and the problem versus the person, or the person and the problem versus you.
Sometimes the person can be the problem.
And that's the biggest problem. And then if we go all problematic, they go get nowhere.
That's toxic.
Right. So just having those boundaries, and I think it goes across the line, like even boundaries with yourself, like certain things we have to check ourselves on. Like, maybe I can be a little bit more understanding. Let me shift my perspective a little bit, okay, this is the part that I played in it. Is there anything that I could have did differently? Right. Now, if you're running those questions down to yourself, and deep down you have done everything that you could, set those boundaries and don't apologize for it.
Right.
and don't settle for anything less. You get what I'm saying?
It's good. Because some people, sometimes deep-rooted issues go deep.
Mm-hmm.
So your boundary may need to be changed. I'm constantly changing I'm constantly challenging myself.
Yeah.
To and honestly just not taking things personal. Because you could be coming from the best place that you think, but you're not
to
being
somebody else, right?
Yeah, you're not taking them into account too.
Right. And that's where that grace comes in. You know how you always say, I'm graceful to myself and other people.
Right.
You have to be, because everybody is only trying to be the best version of themselves at whatever level they're at. Yeah. So it's like you can't hold people. You can hold them accountable, but at the end of the day, they're learning. You know, you might be strengthened in an area that they're not strengthened in. So it's a matter of everybody just learning. But what's healthy is when you get to that point where it's like, okay, we both got those boundaries, but now we're aiming to understand each other. Even if we don't agree on everything, we're aiming to have that point of like transparency. Like, you know what? I hear where you're coming from. You hear where I'm coming from. That's just enough. Leave it at the surface. You get what I'm saying? Leave it there.
But be disciplined in your boundaries. I think you should be firm. Especially I think in the relationship should have a firm boundary. Like when you go to a house and you want somebody's property, you can't say, oh, well, you could take this side of my property today and this side, like, oh, I'm not calling this. Whatever is your property, like, your boundary has to stay set. Like, you can't start building on somebody else's property. So I think, and you can't let nobody else come building on your property. Because now, they lay down one stone and then now it's a whole another apartment and stuff.
Right.
So I think I learned to be firm on my boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Like, graceful to an extent, but very firm on my boundaries. It has to be firm. Like, it has to be firm because once you start, like, you let somebody slide, especially in relationships, because love is also a different component in that. It's not just your boundaries. Like, it's love now. It's connection. It's
what makes it hard, too, because that's a different layer. Like, okay, now it's not only that I'm moving off. It's always a battle between, this is how I view it. I don't know if you ladies can relate. I feel like it'd be a battle between your mind and your heart. Because sometimes we know better. You get what I'm saying? We know better. We have the knowledge, but when it comes to our heart, stuff's different, especially when you're a good person. I realize that when you always come from a pure place, it's like, tag, now you start to take things like personally, like, because you know the type of person you are. So it's like, tag, now it's a matter between mind and heart. So
which one you think is a liar?
Which one is a liar? Both of them. Listen, both of them. But, and the reason I say both of them is because they both have reasoning. You get what I'm saying? They both is to help us tap into that next level of evolution.
Right.
But the biggest,
protect us.
But the biggest problem is just like deciphering. I think, like deciphering between the two. Like, I don't know.
But I think
it's like a tricky
I
thing.
think it could go back to like God. So like God gave us discernment. Like when something's not right. Like even if you don't, even if no one never said killing was wrong, you kind of know innately. It's like, oh, that don't feel right. Or you know when something when you're supposed to tap into something, or something is telling you to like, oh, that's not right. And sometimes you have to challenge yourself. But I feel like your intuition is there. Like it's right there in the core to challenge you. And and even if you do something that you like, oh, I was right. Yeah. You're gonna regret it. That's why you gotta regret, because it's like, I did that, I felt right at that moment, but it's like, it's still not sitting right with me.
And that's one thing I love about us, because we'll call each other on that. Like, if I do some junk, like, I know if I call y'all, it's like, all right, Todd, listen.
I got your number.
You get what I'm saying? Right. This is what you did. Maybe we could think about it. I'm right. Neither you don't call me on a lot of stuff. Like, Nikwa, you call me on a lot of stuff. And I think that's the type of people that you need to let up in your boundaries a little bit. You know, open them boundaries up. Welcome that type of energy, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So that was some great information right there. That was some really good information. And I guess that can flow us right into the next question. Nita, I think I want you to take this one away. What are some boundaries you feel like you can benefit from developing at your current stage? You can even base it off your experiences, but at this current stage, are there any boundaries you feel like you can develop?
So I feel like with myself, I need to create some boundaries as far as like my self-discipline, because in my mind it's me versus me. So I'm always going to win, and usually
you always going to what?
I'm always going to win. Exactly. So it's like, okay, I need to now discipline myself, because it's not always for the best things. I like to gamble. I might smoke here and there. So certain stuff like that, it's like, okay, if I know I shouldn't gamble, But my other self is saying, girl, you can gamble, you're going to get it right back. You got it, don't worry about it. Right. I'm going to win. So what do? I gamble or whatever the sin is that I'm doing at that moment. And I think I just need to learn how to set boundaries within myself so I can discipline myself financially, health-wise, just a bunch of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it all falls under that umbrella of me versus me. That's
Exactly.
like a perfect depiction and generalization of like what the battle is with.
Right.
Definitely.
Niqua, what about you? What's some things you feel like is any boundaries you could benefit from developing at your current stage?
If I could answer that honestly, I think just being self-aware is just like the foundation for everything.
Okay.
Because you can't really, I don't really think I can say, okay, I need to develop a boundary here, like at the moment, because you know I don't really know, if you will, like I'm still like on the journey, so I always like picture myself on a journey. But I think if I'm always self-aware, then I know when to like, you know, change or when to hold, when to fold, when to do this or when to do that. So I don't really have a certain boundary. I did work on a few boundaries. And like you said, discipline was one of them.
Yeah.
Just having like setting my boundaries and remaining in that. So whatever it is that I probably shouldn't be doing, I try not to do it. But again, we're all human, so I'm human. I don't think that it's not advised, but it takes time to really like stand in your boundaries because it's new. So anything new could be uncomfortable for anybody, which is why a lot of people don't challenge themselves or don't have it, because I'm comfortable doing what I know, what I'm expect.
Right.
Or you know, I just kind of know. So I'm sitting there. At the moment, I'm just vibing out in life. Like I have my things I'm doing. I have my cores, and I do have boundaries in certain areas, but I'm still having fun.
Yeah. And that's really good. I could definitely relate to you ladies. Like, and that's something it's funny because that's literally what we talk about all the time. You know, I'm kind of just going with the flow.
Creating the flow.
There you go. Creating it.
Because going with
and
the
as
flow.
I'm creating, it's going. But when I say that, I think I was meaning more of like me going with my own flow in a sense, just like, you know, accepting things as they come. But one thing that I do like that, you know, we all have in common is that me versus me thing. You know, we're always looking for that next way to challenge ourselves. Like, we never settle. You get what I'm saying? And I think that's one thing that, you know, transparent moment, just like you ladies mentioned, it's a me versus me thing too. You know, I find that one thing I always laugh about is like, I've been in school since pre-K. Like, I went straight up master's degree. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, so I really didn't have a break. Like, I was on autopilot, master's. I was working full time, going to school full time, interning full time. Like, all this stuff was required of me. So once I graduated, I kind of told myself, like, you know what, slow down a little bit, go with the flow of things, you know, experience life as it presents itself to you, and kind of just go with the flow. But back to when we mentioned that stagnation, I don't like that. Like, I can't go with the flow too long. I can't.
If I'm
you get what I'm
sitting
saying?
there,
I can't do that.
Like, it plays with my psyche. Like, it really makes me feel like, and I say that because I feel like it's important to say, slow down. Like, it's important in this day and age, and I you know, from like the first episode, we talked about that grind culture. Kev said that, and it's like, this day and age, we tend to like keep going and going. Not even that, this day and age, but life. Because I'm sure they had their own things at that moment, you know, years ago or different generations. But I think it's important to just create a boundary of just like a safe space for yourself. And that could mean anything, just whatever makes you feel like good. Create that boundary, just create that safe space for yourself to just do what it is that you need at that time. Like, you may need to put up a wall, because you may need to like work on some things and pull yourself off. You may need to open up that door. You may need to like change up a few things. So I definitely feel like boundaries are just meant to build. Like, your boundaries should change per circumstance, but it definitely should be something that you're comfortable with.
And while we're building, I think another thing, and I forget what I was watching, it was like a documentary, I forget who documentary it was. It may have been Kanye's. And like after watching it, you know, I'm always reflecting on stuff. It was amazing. Like I have a shout out to Kanye. I have a total different perspective.
He got me in my bag.
He did. I'm telling you, afterwards, I'm like, all right, Todd, get it together. Like,
he got me in my bag. Like,
but one thing that I took from it as I was reflecting, I kept saying to myself, like, yo, it's two things that living and being has in common. And it comes down to freedom.
Right.
Like we all just want to get to that point where we have the freedom across the line, mentally, physically, emotionally. Like we just want to be free. So as much as we put in that time and that effort and really going and grinding after all the things we want, like we all want that freedom. You get what I'm saying? So if it comes down to us making those boundaries, you know, formulating what we would accept, what we won't accept, in the end, I think it's going to help us to get to a point where it's more free because everything is going to be on autopilot. There's not much we have to do but just set those boundaries.
Right.
It's not much we have to do but just regulate our core. You get what I'm saying? And the more we regulate our core, going back to that self-awareness, going back to that me versus me, everything else is going to flow.
Right.
You know?
So I'm thinking about it as we're talking. I know it's
Yeah.
like, you know, a conversation. You know I'm a thinker. So, but I'm thinking like, so in that documentary, because I want to bring it to that.
Yeah.
But in that documentary is like, what made me want to ask the next question is, because I know it's on boundaries. And I'm always like coming from that challenge standpoint too. And I'm just like always free thinker too. But in that documentary, I feel like Kanye had no boundaries. And that allowed him to be free.
Right.
So it's like,
but other people misunderstood it. That's where the problem came in.
Right.
He didn't have any boundaries. I feel like at the same sense he had boundaries as to his creativity, but other people misunderstood it.
I think that he just was free, and I feel like you say, when you create boundaries, you create in like a certain like path for yourself. Like right, you create like a certain path that allows you to be to the point where you can like have the choice to say this could be in, and then you develop like that self. That you just develop your core. I feel like you develop yourself so that you are able to be in the face of everything to say like, okay, I understand you, but this is me. Like, so even though you have that, this is where my boundaries stop. So I'm okay with being in your boundaries, but this is where my boundaries stop. I don't know. I just was thinking like, cause he ain't had no boundaries. Like he just kind of was very.
At first, I feel like initially it probably wasn't no boundaries there, but as he learned how other people was perceiving,
he never stopped though.
His creativity, right? He never stopped, and over time, it's like once he started to develop his core, everybody else, you have no point to adjust. You have no other option but to adjust to me.
Right.
If my core is strong,
right,
you have no point.
Right. So with that, like, cause I kind of like Kanye because sometimes like how he thinks and he is often misunderstood. I can be like to people that I love and adore and people that know the real me. I'm a little mean. Like I can be
but
very.
You're a teddy bear too.
Right.
A teddy bear, very protective.
When I set boundaries, like with my people that I love, I am boundless. Like I show every part of me, and for other people that I don't know that well, they like, oh, she's really nice. No, she didn't say much because I have a boundary up to where you're not gonna get to know the real Anita.
Comfort, right.
Exactly, because I'm not gonna waste my time explaining to you and things like that. So it's really, I really like that aspect of, for my core, I have no boundaries. But I expect you to accept me in that way.
I love
and
that.
then for people that I don't really deal with, my boundaries are so high. It'd be like, you sure that was the Anita you was talking to?
I love that.
Yep, that was her.
I love that.
So yeah, I like.
Because we gotta get softer with like the people we love.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? The people we love
of
deserve like more understanding, more patience, more kindness, more empathy. And you actually just checked me on that. Like, yo, you know what? It's not just, you know, like just think of it holistically. You get what I'm saying? Like everybody deserves some type of like love and respect, especially the ones that you love.
right.
So that's a really good point. Thank you for pointing that out.
I'm different. I'm just like, this is the love that you're gonna get it.
Right, you're gonna get it, and that's the thing. I feel like love I give freely.
Like I'm gonna love you because it's like you need that. Like I think that we all need that softness. I'm not afraid to be like soft at all. I'm just that person who just wanna. I create the energy where I'm at.
Yeah.
So I have boundaries, but I also feel like you can't my boundary is that I'm who I am. Like anything that I do is because I let it in. This is my house. If I let it in, that's because I let it in.
Right.
And I'm able to understand that. So I'm able to bring that back. But I do have things where I say, okay, this is not gonna happen. I guess like Kanye, if I can like check that, like go back and revert back to that. His boundaries was just that he doesn't have, he doesn't fit your expectations. Like he had his boundary, and that was just that I'm not going to be boundless. Like,
and everybody's entitled to that.
Yeah, he says like I'm not going to fit what you want. Like if I want to be a rapper, I'm going to be a rapper. If I want to be a producer, I'm going to be a producer. If I want to do this and be a clothing designer, I'm going to be this. And nobody's going to tell me I can't do it because my boundaries are what I want. So
and that's just that.
I think it's like it's okay to let people in. It's okay to have your core values. Yeah. It's okay to be yourself.
And it's and absolutely letting people in, have your core values, be yourself. You know the people that you have around you, and also know the levels that you can allow people to be around you too. Because it's like, if you think about it, that goes back to like having no boundaries when we get to that point, and this is something I have to tell myself constantly. Like, I'm a very loving person. Like, if I rock with you, I rock with you. Everything I do is out of love. In every way, shape, or form. Like, because I'm the type of person, I was breeded out of love. Like, I was raised on love. I was around love, you know what I'm saying? And y'all can definitely relate. Like, that's one thing we can say with this family is love is at its core. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little toxic. We all have our little toxic ways, but at the core it's all love. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we have to know how to put those walls up to be like, you know what? Okay, it's all love, but you don't deserve that much love. Sorry, not you don't deserve that much love, but I have to limit my outpour.
I think it's that like it's all love, but I need to be loved the way I need to be loved. So you could love me to your capacity. Like you could love me in what you think is love, but I may say, you know what, I need a different type of love. So even though I know it's love, it's not the love I need.
So I like to leave the audience with like something to take away, something to reflect on that leads into the next episode. So my last question, Nikwa, you could take this away, but you can also reflect on it. It's going to be a nice little ender. What advice can we give to the audience when it comes to developing boundaries? What advice can we provide?
If I had to give an audience advice on setting boundaries, I would say know yourself. Like, know yourself so that you know what you need. When you know what you need, you can like ask for it. So like a boundary is like saying, like, this was happened, this was not. So I think that when you know yourself, you get to set clear boundaries. You get to set firm boundaries because you're not second guessing yourself. And you could like even be lenient with those boundaries. So know yourself. I think just being self-aware is like the foundation for setting a boundary. Like you can't ask for something you don't know. Like you can't say, oh, treat me like this, but when you really want to be treated like this.
That's that.
You can't say, I'm going to do this when you know you can't do it. So I think just become self-aware, know yourself, and then set them boundaries. And when you set them boundaries, like you can't just pick up a house and move it to the next street. Like the house got to stay in one place. So set them boundaries, get clear on them boundaries, and get firm.
Because when you don't set them, that house going to go in foreclosure.
No, we're just going to fall down. If you don't got the solid foundation, it's going to collapse. So I think set those boundaries. Like, people can't come on your property that don't need to be there. Like, don't come to my house if I ain't invite you. So yeah, set your boundaries.
Okay. Thanks for that, Neat. Nita Baker, what you say?
So to piggyback, I think it is important to go ahead and set those boundaries. But for other people, let them know what you expect or your boundaries from them in the beginning. So that way, when it does fall, you know that you did everything that you could in the situation, and it's solely on the person who, mistook those boundaries or overstepped those boundaries. So as long as you set it from the beginning, it's no reason as to why it's finito at the end when they cross it. Now, the amount of times that you allow them to cross that boundary is up to you. So, yeah. Yeah,
that's some great points. And I think it's one thing I always like point out is that it's easier said than done. When it comes down to a matter of like disciplining and like certain things that you will accept, that you won't accept. It's easier said than done.
It is.
But it gets to the point we got to put ourselves first. Like we are a priority. We can't pour from an empty cup. We can't expect other people to know what we need poured into our cup. We have to set that foundation.
Yes.
Right.
And I think when you set those boundaries and you actually stand firm, it allows you to trust yourself. Like you can trust yourself because you're not backing out on yourself. You're not going against yourself. Like you do something and you question it. Like it's not building like nothing sturdy within you. It's like Now the next thing you question, like, be firm, like, so you can build trust. I think a lot of people that don't have boundaries lack trust in themselves. So I think like once you start trusting yourself, you can say, okay, I did this for this reason, and nobody's gonna that. I'm not gonna change it because you feel something. Like this is my boundary, and you crossed it, and that's it. I'm not gonna feel sorry for you because you knew, like you said, you knew what the boundary was. So how many chances are you gonna get somebody to keep crossing that boundary? At that point, it's not a boundary; it's the open door. Like it's a an entryway.
So trust yourself. Set those boundaries.
That's it.
I like it.
That's it. That's all.
That's it.
I think that's a perfect way to end it off too. Trust yourself.
Know yourself.
Know yourself. Know your worth.
Yes.
And set those boundaries. Like only you know what you need.
Yeah.
But ladies, listen. That was a good little segment. I really enjoyed that one.
Me too.
Thank you both for being a part of this.
Thank you for having us.
You already know. Y'all know the
pleasure.
vibes. Y'all know the vibes. I'm so glad y'all came through. Thank you. I'm proud of y'all too.
Yeah.
But that brings us to it, y'all. Listen, we will be tapping in. I want y'all to stay tapped in. Once again, this was episode 3 on boundaries. Just stay tuned. I have so much more in store for you guys. Once again, thank you all for your support, your continuous support and your feedback, your engagement. I really appreciate it. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. As I mentioned, I will be dropping something all year, so I want you guys to be a part of this. I want you guys to be a part of this growth. And let's just stick to it. If you are interested in purchasing messages to my neighbor, it will be available in the link below. Please be sure to purchase, and as you purchase, stay in contact with me. Before we end off, I want y'all to, share your Instagram, share your social media platforms, and just what you guys have coming up. What's something you have coming up that you'd like to share?
You want to go first with me?
You can go first.
All right, you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, all social media platforms. It's _India Rose. India like the country, Rose like the flower. A couple things I have, you could book a shoot with me. I got new music coming up. My clothing brand, my boutique, so you can shop with me. You could book a photo shoot. You can hear some music. Yeah, just check it out. Check it out.
Jack of all trades, whatever you need, she's gonna deliver.
I got you.
That's just that.
And you can follow me on Instagram at _Shondayyah, SHONDAYAH. Also, you can follow me at my business pages, The Potential in Us. We just work with people with disabilities, doing a bunch of different things. And you can follow me at The Potential in Me, which is a nonprofit where we just help the youth, people with disabilities, again, families, just a bunch of different things. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
So you're right. Shout out to But no, seriously, thank you, ladies. I'm definitely open to discussion. Stay in contact with these ladies as well. Everybody I bring on as guests, they're just as well as me, open-minded. They love engagement. They love interacting with people, helping each other grow, and just spreading love, essentially. That's what it comes down to, just really spreading love and being a part of greatness. So thank you guys once again. And to my next message, my neighbor. Cheers.